Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are live here today with the Cook County Small Business Source. And sorry, one second, having some technical difficulties. My screen went black. Am I still on camera? What? I can't.
We can see and hear you, Kara.
Sorry, my screen is black right now. All right, so we will just start. Sorry about that, everyone. So my name is Kara Heifel. I'm with the Illinois Restaurant Association, and we are doing a webinar today on loyalty programs, and it is brought to you today, and it is also being broadcast and recorded in English, Spanish, and Mandarin Chinese. To listen to these different interpretations, please use the interpretation button in your toolbar. This webinar is being presented by us at the Illinois Restaurant Association in conjunction with the Cook County Small Business Source. This Cook County Small Business Source was established to ensure businesses emerge from COVID-19 intact and positioned for growth. The Small Business Source connects small business owners with expert guidance and support. There's many services and they are all at no cost. There's advising, resources, and events to connect small business owners with a community of advisors and each other. For one-on-one business advising, sign up at cookcountysmallbusiness.org. It's free and signing up is super easy. The Small Business Source will connect you with experts from their network, including us at the Illinois Restaurant Association. All of the contact info will be included in the follow-up email that you will receive after this webinar. Also, before we begin, I'd like everyone attending to know that the Illinois Restaurant Association remains as a source to you and the hospitality industry at large. Our staff is here to provide guidance, assistance, and relief to restaurants and bars and caterers, and all of the above. We're eager to help you in anything, and our contact info will also be in the follow-up email following this webinar. For today's webinar, there'll be a Q&A. Feel free to put questions in the chat and we will answer those at the end. And then we have, at this time, we're going to start, and I'd like to introduce our panelists with us today. We have Karen Stutz, President and CEO, and Sandra Toom, Director of Marketing from Native Foods. We also have Scott Weiner, co-owner of the 50/50 Restaurant Group. And we're going to start today with Scott Weiner. Scott, please take it away.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. We have some slides up here that I get to look at. So anyhow, I'm going to talk a little bit more about building the loyalty program. Just to, depending on what stage in that development you are, there's a lot of great programs out there. We happen to use NCRs, but there's a lot of opportunities out there. But having a good solid plan as you kind of decide it's time to develop a program is really, I think, the most important thing I've learned over the years. So I'll talk briefly about technology. Ultimately, everything is about data and technology these days. Understand what your POS can do. Your current one you have, if you need to change to a new one, what bolt-ons or additional third parties platforms are able to integrate, or do you have a POS that can do everything? Program criteria, understanding what's important to you for your loyalty program, for your brand, for your infrastructure. For example, there are a lot of restaurants that use the loyalty program of, say, a DoorDash or a Grubhub or an Uber. That may be all you need. And there's a lot of companies that don't necessarily integrate with your brand. So those are things you'll want to choose and want to be aware of. Because every company today has a loyalty. What's your guest engagement plan? Ultimately, understanding that you can have the best loyalty program in the world, but if your staff is unable to sign people up, it's essentially not going to do much for you. So how do you get this in front of your guests? And then finally, the ongoing management. identifying who's going to really own the program, who's going to be the person that is, making sure that your employees and your customers maintain their engagement. We can go to the next slide. So, 50/50 real quickly, we have over the years signed up about 100,000, if not more, loyalty members. We're a small restaurant group. I guess it depends how you define small these days, but we're mainly a neighborhood restaurant group where we understood the importance of a loyalty program, very early on. I believe we started building ours in 2010. Our first place opened in 2008. In terms of that 100,000, over the years, that's just how many we've signed up. Over the years, people move, people stop going out to restaurants, or stop going to your restaurants. The loyalty program obviously is to convince them that they should come to your restaurant more often. On an average weekly basis, however, we seem to see about 10% of our clientele is a loyalty member. And we tend to sign up at least 300-400 members each week, at least during this time of year. With that said, there's not a ton of people that it might take 6 months for that first person to come back. So, we're also still learning about new behaviors in our clientele, especially as COVID came, where a lot of our in-person diners started going to delivery only. Some of them may have been lost to third parties. So, ultimately, we're still learning as we go as well. Back to the roadmap here, your POS, if you're trying to start your loyalty program for the first time, your POS vendor is probably going to be the place that you want to start at. There's the big guys out there, the NCR Aloha's, Micros, Toast, I guess these days, and, several others. Every one of them has a loyalty program. Some are better than others. Some are easier than others. Understand, as we said before, what are you looking for in yours? And then there's third-party integrators, Paytronix, who I think our friends at Native Foods use, Punch, who I learned they used to use, and several others out there that have a loyalty program. Do you need to integrate with online ordering? Do you have your own online ordering that's direct? If you don't, you should. That's how you get rid of those 20 and 30% fees. What about your gift cards? What other things do you need to integrate with? Those are all really important things about your loyalty program, because if you are a primarily, delivery only business and you don't integrate to your online ordering platform, your loyalty program isn't worth much. If you're mostly in-house, but you want to go into delivery down the road and get away from these third parties, you need to know those things and really have a game plan for it. And then if you have multiple different concepts, such as the 50/50 group, which ultimately has been our biggest challenge, how can that loyalty program be supported in a fine dining restaurant versus quick service versus full service? So, it can get pretty complex. And the thing that you hear the most about a lot on the technology side today is the data. Understanding how you need to re-engage with your program, with your members, is important. A long time ago, just having a punch card, buy 10, get one, could have been a loyalty program. Today, though, there's ways to understand and segment out your guests to understand that, so-and-so likes Goose Island beers. If we have a Goose Island promo, let's get that person out there in email to let them know we're doing something with our loyalty program for Goose Island. And maybe let's not bother somebody who's never ordered a beer once in our restaurant. Let's not flood them with emails. Let's do something different for them. And even further, maybe this person prefers a push notification or a text message versus an email. They have a higher percentage rate of clicks on that. Those are all the things that data can tell you as things get integrated. Program criteria. I'm not going to read all of these to you. Most of you probably know the different kinds of programs out there. But ultimately, there's different ways that you need to go out there and engage. Our program tends to use a little bit of all of this. Some of it's event-based, whether that be a birthday or we haven't seen you in 30 days, 60 days. You probably get emails every day from somebody that hasn't seen you. There's some programs that are kind of linked through our, right now it's a separate company with our push notifications, where if you leave your cart full when you're ordering pizza from us, we'll get you out a push notification. Hey, what's going on? Maybe you forgot about us. Here's 5% off, to finish your order. So there's a lot of different things. The subscription base, we use that at Westtown Bakery on the coffee program, similar to the old school punch card. And then point-based, which we also use. So there's a ton of different things out there. Cooper's Hawk's become famous for their membership program, the wine club. There's so many different things out there. You need to understand and decide what's important to your business, and how are you going to use a loyalty program to help re-engage your guest and maybe introducing new ones. Go to the next slide, please. Guest engagement plan. Ultimately, as we said, if you're not getting people to sign up for your program, then you probably aren't going to have much of a program. What really helped for us with the 50/50 group is we actually used our ratings, our secret shoppers. That's how we started to really hold our team accountable for signing people up. Secret shopper program is linked ultimately to our manager bonus program. And we overweighted the questions that would ask about the loyalty program. When we did that, we started seeing loyalty signups go through the roof. And how on your store level, or if you have just one store, how you react when somebody doesn't mention the loyalty program is a different plan. It is up to you. But we've also found, I probably said it here, what gets measured gets done. Every week, we're sending out, no, that's on ongoing management, but we're always looking for ways to get our staff engaged, whether that's rewards for signing people up or whatever it might be. So how are you going to tell people about it? Is it going to be on your website, table tents? Is it at the cash register, signage, host and email us? All the above is how we've ultimately signed people up. And early on, as I said, it was good enough just to have a plan. What we started to realize was that our most active loyalty members usually came back within the first 30 to 45 days after their sign up. So we really made an effort to try to get people in on their second visit. And a lot of that was something called like a smart reward. We might not have targeted everybody on their second visit. Maybe it was somebody that spent between $30 and $75. But having targets to get people in, whether that be double points on your next visit or just a simple cash reward, those things have really helped engage. And also our staff sees that too. So-and-so's back already. They recognize that there's a couple different things that are usually just for a guest second visit. So that's been helpful. And then redemptions. How are you going to let people know what their balances are? Usually a lot of the newer POS systems, especially the cloud-based ones, are linking right to people's phones with a text message or an email. With some POS systems, you're going to need to have a third-party integration so they can look up their points. So there's all different ways, but ultimately, every POS register will typically also tell you a guest point balance. So understanding that, because the guest needs to know how close are they to the next reward. That's one of the best ways to motivate them to come back in and use their program again. Finally, ongoing management. As I said, what gets measured gets done. How do you communicate with your key people how the reports are going? Early on, we used to use an uplift report. And that report would tell us, A, how much more money our loyalty members spent versus a non-member, which was helpful for the managers to realize that not only did the loyalty members spend more money, but they came back more often, obviously. And we would also try to get reports out there to show our servers that loyalty members often tip more. Usually when someone's redeeming something, getting something for free, they often feel like they should leave a little extra. So a lot of that helped us continue to grow and ultimately keep growing and getting more members. The guest data, which we talked about, have a plan. Technology goes obsolete quickly, program updates. Who's going to be running this? Who's the point person when something does change and you need to potentially even upgrade your entire POS system? Unfortunately, that's been the process we've been doing for about 2 years now across multiple concepts that we're running on different versions of POS, so we can kind of take our loyalty program to the next level. A lot of time, who's going to do it for you? And then, you know, your ongoing promotions. Our group has an amazing marketing team led by one of our senior marketing people, Betsy Cash, who is always thinking about ongoing promotions. Things like the day after Labor Day might be a good time to engage some of our restaurants. We know we're a little slower. So emails, having that person that's involved in the ongoing management ultimately is how you can have a program that's going to last more than a year or two and just become part of your company's culture. So that's my spiel for y'all today. Thank you for your time, and I'll answer some questions in a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. That was incredibly informative. And now we're going to turn it over to Karen Stutz and Sandra Toom of Native Foods, and they'll present further on the importance of loyalty programs. Take it away.
Thanks, Kara, and thank you, Scott. Super helpful. I think Scott laid a really great foundation for what it really takes to, and you can see there's a lot of thought and a lot of learning that goes into adding a loyalty program, or in our case, converting from one loyalty program to another. Scott had already mentioned that we switched from Paytronix. We had the Punch program before. He had that up there as well. And so that there's equally a lot to think about, not only from starting one from its infancy to obviously transferring all of that data. So we'll try to segue and tag on to a lot of things that Scott's already mentioned. As you said, Carol, Sandra and I are from Native Foods. We're a plant-based or a vegan fast casual restaurant. We've got 3 locations here in the Chicago market, and we're in 2 other states, but we are downtown in the Loop and Lakeview and Wicker Park. So feel free to come and see us. We have 123 loyalty members, 123,000 loyalty members. And it's really been, especially through the pandemic, our #1 way of communicating with our guests throughout. We changed our loyalty program just over 3 or so months ago in April. Some of the factors that made us think about doing something different, first of all, like all of us who've maybe gone through some of the challenges of the pandemic and people working from home, was really just the cost of the overall program. It's really important that you find a program that is willing to work with small businesses. Some of them have big fees that they say, I've got a minimum amount of contract, a minimum amount you've got to spend even to be part of our program. Look at that very closely, as well as the startup fees. They range from probably, I don't know, $5,000 to $10,000 to $60,000. It's really crazy, some of the numbers and the variances of what it costs to start up with the program. Another thing we looked at was just segmentation. So we're in a position to better communicate with our guests the way they use us. And Sandra will talk a little bit about that later, about segmentation and how we look at our guests that come to us on a regular basis. And channels, Scott talked about that as well. Is it email? Do people look at us from email? Do they look at it from the loyalty program? SMS, text messaging, those type of things. And I think one thing that we all know is that probably, especially in the fast casual segment, about 78% of guests that come to our restaurant or make some type of a contact with our restaurant, again, 78% typically start on their telephones. So you want to make sure that you've got something that's really mobile friendly as well. If you want to go to the next slide, Kara. And this is just maybe a little more practical, add on from what Scott has already talked about. And the first thing we just said when you're going to pay a loyalty program, because there is a cost to it, is how does it drive revenue? If it's not going to bring in more revenue, if it's not going to bring in more guests, you probably don't want to do it. POS compatibility. Scott's using NCR, we use Brink. See, first of all, again, being a smaller business, we wanted to find a company that already had written a lot of the integration to work with our POS system. And there's a lot of compatibility. We also have to look at Olo. We use Olo, our menu, sits on the Olo platform. So when we were obviously doing the transfer, we had to work with our POS platform, with Olo, obviously with Paytronix and our internal group, and there's a lot of coordination there. So finding companies that have already done the integrations together for a small business is super helpful. And then how does the program work? You know, Scott already talked about that. Is it easy for the guests to use? What kind of rewards are we going to offer? And Sandra's going to talk a little bit about that later. Obviously, I have Sandra on the call. I feel, you know, like I was part of obviously the decision-making group to get there, but the real work that's done is the person who manages it day to day. So Sandra's done the integration. She does the day-to-day customer management. She does everything from soup to nuts. So I thought if there was questions, she's definitely going to be a much better person here today than and offer a lot more value than I possibly could. But yeah, there is a lot to be thinking about, from campaign setups to guest service, email marketing, analytics, all those type of things. Another thing that we look at is the program robust and flexible enough to be more than a discount program. And I think that's where Scott started to talk about data. And we'll talk a little bit more about data, but some of them don't really have a back-end program that you can look at your data and segment it, that you can talk directly to your customers. Like if I have a guest who always orders a shawarma bowl and would never order, you know, a vegan burger and fries, I'm not going to talk to them about unhealthy food. If I can talk to them more directly about what they order every day, they're more likely to open an email that I send to them. But and where I noticed some of the programs that are a little bit more discount oriented, or some of them that were just tied to some of the POS programs that didn't really have the expertise in just in loyalty programs. And then again, who owns your data and how do you get it back? So I always say, plan the marriage and plan the divorce. Whenever you sign up for anything from a technology standpoint, always understand the relationship going in, but you have to know the relationship coming out. And it wasn't a loyalty program, but there's another technology program that we used around, I'd say gift cards. And in order to transfer from one gift card program to the other, they wanted $60,000 to get our own data back. So you really have to understand what you're signing up for, and that make sure you own the data and it's easily given and sent to you if you decide to move it off of that program. And then again, just direct communication channels to guests. Sandra always says, you know, it's really important that we talk to the guests on the platform that they want to use. And so we went back and forth. We had an app before, do we use an app? And we decided to do that because we have a lot of people that come in and use the program that way. But again, we want to be where the guests are and how they use us. So with that, go to the next slide, and I'll let Sandra share some of the things that we're doing at Native Foods.
Absolutely. Yeah, Karen and I will be tag teaming this presentation a little bit. So there's going to be some back and forth, but I'm actually going to piggyback on one of the last points that Karen just mentioned. So these are some other considerations that you might want to think about when you decide if you need or want a loyalty program. She spoke about owning your guest data, and which is a pro if you have a loyalty program, but I want to go so far and want to say it helps you own the guest, not just the guest data in a technical sense, because we all know in this day and age, third-party applications are just huge. They're taking a lot of our business. And is that guest really our guest, or is that a Grubhub guest? Is that an Uber Eats guest? If we offer our guests all the channels, as she said, all the channels that they prefer to communicate on, they expect us to be reachable via whatever channel they prefer, be it an app, be it social media, email. So we need to offer these channels, and a good solid loyalty program or loyalty technology will just offer you all these options to reach your guests, talk to them on their app, via push notification, on their mobile phone, text messaging, email, all that good stuff. Another thing to consider is branding. So we didn't just switch our loyalty providers recently, we also underwent a rebranding. We're actually still somewhat in the process of finalizing the rebranding with some store renovations, but the whole rollout of that rebranding, it was incredibly helpful to have this loyalty program, to communicate it, and to not just communicate it and have like one more visual channel in the form of our app, to just showcase our branding and everything that Native Foods stands for. So that is incredibly important, and a question you need to ask when choosing a loyalty provider. Many offer their like white label apps or systems. You really want to make sure and ask them, what can you change in your branding, and what is involved in further edits of your branding. Like if we want to change some imagery at some point, is there a cost attached to that? So be sure to ask those questions about branding of your loyalty program. Again, some points have been mentioned by both Scott and Karen at this point, so I can go a little quicker over them. But a loyalty program is also an easy way for us to share our menu, special offers, just an easy way to be in touch with our guests. And another pro of having a loyalty program is, of course, that you want to reward your loyal guests. Those are our best guests. We love them, and we want to say thank you and just show them that we appreciate them. So to have this option is worth $1 million, quite literally. Again, we have mentioned this already, a good loyalty program should provide you with some communication channels, direct communication channels to your guests that you might not have had in another way. Now through our loyalty system, I can text my guests, I can send push notifications on their mobile app, whichever way you communicate in this day and age. A good loyalty program should offer you these channels. A good loyalty good loyalty program can increase your check average, but be mindful of that. Like we as Native Foods have a strategy that we actually do not discount a whole lot, or frankly almost at all. So which is part of our brand, we don't discount. However, we reward loyalty. So we were at a point where we were giving out so many rewards that the check average was actually lower, because we were just giving out all these rewards left and right, whereas we did not discount our regular guests. And so, which can have its benefits, you know, you can use these type of discounts to increase frequency. But what I mean to say with all of this is a loyalty program doesn't automatically increase your check average. Just by implementing this program, you won't magically see an increase. You have to manage it that way that it does. But for the most part, and as Scott already mentioned, it's an ongoing learning experience. You will see higher check averages. Some cons of a loyalty program, all things you need to consider. In this day and age, every guest will have on average 16 to 18 loyalty memberships. Like, we are all guests, we're all consumers. If you look on your phone, you'll see probably a dozen apps, and half of them you probably don't use. So that is a challenge. So you need ongoing management of your loyalty system. You really need to work it. Just implementing it won't do the job. You need to put some work and to stay engaged with the guest. That's actually the next point. There is daily management involved, and for the most part, that is on you. Like your loyalty provider, be it a Punch or Paytronix, they won't do that job for you. So you will need to be staffed properly to manage that. The average discount And that's not just native foods, that is a benchmark that we learned from our loyalty providers for fast casual, is that on average, the discounting is 10 to 11%. So again, something to consider if you want to do that, if you can do it, if you have those margins. Lastly, another con is, again, the whole management part. If you want to deep dive into it, if you want to segment your loyalty database, all this data mining, you need to do that. For the most part, you don't get that from your loyalty provider. So you need to have somebody who has this strategic and analytic experience. Next slide, please. Alrighty, again, we have just switched loyalty providers. So some of the learnings are like very top of mind from us, and we just felt in a very colloquial manner, we're just gonna share them what we've just learned. So one of the key learnings of the last couple of years and the switch up is, it is easy for us to get a guest to sign up. You have a nice sign up offer. At first, we had a very generous, was it like a $5 or $10 off that we just gave out. And so it was super easy for us to get those numbers up. But guests weren't necessarily staying engaged. They just signed up, took that discount, and then they were gone. So you need to learn to balance getting a huge quantity of people to sign up and not just giving out a high sign up discount and then you lose them. So there needs to be a balance, and we'll be speaking on that a little bit in a couple of minutes. You also don't want to have the liability of all these points and rewards and have them not expire. So you want to make sure, for a liability perspective, that your points or rewards expire. Like we have currently have our points and rewards expiring after a year of inactivity. So if our guest has not engaged with us in any shape or form for 12 months, the points or rewards will expire. We will alert them, which again is another way to hopefully get some sales, like, hey, your $10 rewards are about to expire in 2 weeks or so. And that might be a way to get them back and engaged. But again, from liability standpoint, make sure to get them to expire. Timing of offers matters, just with everything in marketing. When you send out your loyalty promotions, you know, you have your slow days, you have your busy days. That's just a general marketing 101. And as Scott already mentioned, your restaurant team training is crucial. We're repeating this, Scott has mentioned it already, but learn something from the repetition. What we're repeating, that's the stuff that's critical. So make sure your team knows the technology behind it, knows the promotions, knows how to sell it, all that good stuff. Number of contacts each week, Jesus. You do want to contact your guests frequently, but you don't want to overdo it either. If you, and again, we are all guests and users ourselves, if you get a message every day, you probably just end up deleting that app. So you want to find that balance, how frequently you want to reach out to your guests. And you want to, one benefit, of course, of a loyalty program is all these offers, you want to make sure that they're not available on third-party orders. Part of the loyalty idea is also to just move guests away from third party to get them over to us. Next slide, please. Some other points we considered when we were switching our program, or in general when you set up a program, and Scott has mentioned these already, so I'm going to just go over them really quickly. Do you want to do a points-based program? Like we all know, earn 100 points, get $5 off. That's a points program. Or do you want to set up a frequency type program? Buy 10 coffees, get the next one free. Might depend on your type of business, but something you want to consider. Other things, what type of rewards? Surprise and delight rewards. So you just maybe after a certain visit, you want to just send out a surprise reward that just gets your guest happiness up and gets them more loyal, makes them more loyal, hopefully. Birthday rewards working very well for us. Refer a friend rewards. They're okay. They don't work as well as a birthday reward or a lapsed user. Great opportunity to get a disengaged guest back if they haven't been engaged for like 30 or 60 days. Remind them we still exist, send out a little discount, get them back. Yeah, just make sure you have all these communication channels, email marketing, mobile marketing, and so on. I don't want to repeat myself too much. Do I want to have a tiered system? Yes or no? Do I want to have a premium guest that I treat differently than the regular loyalty guest? All things to consider. Might depend on your business. This is what you want to do. So yeah, I think this is Karen taking back over.
Yes, like I said, I think we've covered a lot of this. Again, whenever you use any kind of program, you're going to do anything new with your restaurant, always start with just looking through the lens of the guest and how they're going to use the program. So you just want to make sure that it's really easy for them to use, to access, and make it as easy as possible. I know one of the things that that we do notice is that probably the hardest part of the program that we switched into recently is there's not an easy way for the guests to recover if they miss their points. And that is one thing you learn with the loyalty program. When someone misses their points, they want their points and they want them in their account right away. So when you talk about that day-to-day management, they'll let you know or send you an email that said, hey, I was here such and such a date. I forgot to click on my loyalty. And you want to make sure that you're quick to respond with that as well. And then, you know, obviously anytime, even with any of your program, that if I'm in a hurry and I want to grab the same dinner for my family again, and I can go to an app and just say, hey, I want to reorder the same thing I had last time, the simpler you can make that, we definitely see frequency there as well. And then I'll take the next slide. And again, I think, you know, when you sign up for a loyalty program, you just have to realize that the value is not the software program. And both Scott and Sandra have mentioned, you can't just put a loyalty program and go, okay, check the box, it's done. Again, you have to really work it to make sure that it adds great value. And again, it's the data to us that really is the value. I think that's the thing we all talked about when third party first came in. And look, we use them all and we are thankful for the business that they bring us, but we all know that it comes at a cost. But sometimes the real cost is we don't own that guest. And you really want to own the guest. That is the most important thing, that you can have direct communication with them. So again, I think that's really the value there. So again, we can speak directly to them, easy enrollment. And I think that's, you know, what Sandra just somewhat talked about, you know, that pitfall. So one of the things we learned up front was that one-time user, they come in and, you know, our team members are excited to get people to sign up too and to offer them value and get them part of the program. But then when they use that original or old program, use that $5 right there, the next time they come in, they might have signed up with another email and gotten the same $5 again, right? Everybody knows how to use programs to maximize the benefits. But so what we really did was try to put more value on the second visit. So the first visit, once you spend $15, the next one you come back, you get a $10 discount. And we're seeing more frequency, more people move to that second visit now, where we hope that we become part of their routine. And the next slide, to go to Sandra.
Absolutely. And oh, hold on, did we just skip a slide? The mining the data. And I'm going to be mindful of everybody's time. I know we're running up on our speaking time. You will get these slides afterwards, so you will have access to them. So I'm just going to go over them real quick. So one of the main benefits of a loyalty program is you are able to do a lot of segmentation work with your guests. And as a marketer, you know how to talk to different types of guests, like the ones that come to you frequently might need to be talked to in a different, or might need to be incentivized in a different manner than your less frequent guests. Or like depending on what type of food they prefer, you might want to talk to them differently by all these segmentation categories, and I just listed here the most frequent ones. First one, RFM, recency, frequency, monetary value. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. Some customer patterns. A good loyalty provider should give you this type of data so you can see, is this a guest that always comes for dinner, always comes for lunch, only comes on the weekends? So the timing you talk to them might be different depending on which category he falls and the guest falls into. Do they always buy the same thing? Then have a hypothesis on how the guest spends their money with you. So if they always buy a certain type of food, that might be for a number of reasons. Maybe that person is very price sensitive and he's going for the less expensive menu items, or he happens to be more calorie sensitive. Maybe that same less expensive item is also your only low calorie item. So you need to dig a little deeper into that data and really understand what the driving patterns are behind it. You can get as fancy if you have the staffing or the support to do regression analysis, all that good stuff. Or as an operator, we often just have a gut feeling and know how to do why our guests acts in a certain way. But these are the most common ways to mine the data. And on to the next slide, please.
Yeah, I'll just jump in here too. I think one of the things that we always think about, and I don't know what it's like in your household, but like I'll go home at night and I had someone go, "What do you want for dinner?" And I'll go, "I don't know. What do you want for dinner?" And they'll go, "Well, you decide." You know, I don't know if anybody's ever had that conversation in their household. And I think, you know, you look back at some of the studies that have been in the restaurant business, they always talk about breakfast is pretty routine. A lot of people go to the same place for breakfast or coffee every single morning. Lunch and dinner are more of a rotation. And a typical guest, if you would say to them, like, how many restaurants do you actually frequent on a regular basis? Most people would say there's only 5 or 6 that are normally in their consideration set. And so that's where we think somewhat about a loyalty, a program. It says you're narrowing down to that, you know, the thing to your thing where now I'm going, oh, I feel like Italian, or I feel like Mexican. Is you're starting to narrow down that evaluation. If you have a loyalty program that a person is in that consideration set, is thinking about, that loyalty program can serve to kind of nudge the guests to consider you. If there's, you know, they see value in it, it's just one more reason why you stay in their rotation. And boy, that's a rotation you never want to fall out of. The only other point I would make on that, no matter how good your loyalty program is, we all know as operators, you're only as good as your last visit. You still have to win every visit, make sure the guest gets a great experience. And Sandra, it's got our last slide.
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up real quick. And we actually have talked about this already, both Scott and Karen. We just wanted to give you some examples, some real life examples of loyalty incentives that have worked for us. Again, we rarely discount at Native Foods or use price point marketing. Our guest is actually very receptive of innovation, of LTOs, those type of things, of monthly chef specials, these kind of deals. So you can use your loyalty program to promote that. So it doesn't always need to be a discount or giving away something. Yeah, we rarely discount, but when we do, it's to reward our loyalty guests. Bonus point days actually work tremendously well for us. They are a great way to direct traffic to certain days. Where you give double, triple, or quadruple points. Obviously, the higher the number, the more return you see. And lastly, again, some examples of what we're doing and what is working for us. A birthday reward. Make sure that your guest has been an active guest in the last 12 months or whatever time frame you decide in order to get a birthday gift, or else you will have a lot of guests signing up that just so happen to have their birthday tomorrow, and then they'll grab their gift and you'll never see them again. So we have tied our birthday gift on the condition that they must have spent some money with us in the last 12 months. So only give out your birthday gift to active users, or else, again, they just happen to have the birthday on the sign-up day or the day after. So sign-up bonuses, we have spoken about that already. Make sure that you want to focus on getting that second visit. So don't just throw out money on the first visit and then never talk to them again. We miss you campaigns, that's our lapsed users. So if a guest fell off the bandwagon, we want to get them back on and send them out something if they have been inactive with you. Compression campaigns, that's just a reminder that's working really well for us. If a guest has, say, 90 points and we give out a reward at 100 points, we'll send them out a reminder, hey, you're almost there to getting like your $5 off. Usually works wonders as well. Yeah, it's also a nice way to just direct the guest to order online directly through you. And lastly, BOGOs work tremendously well for us. That's actually one of our biggest ones. And that's it.
Thank you so much. This has been super informative. Now I'm going to start to get to questions in the chat, and we'll try to get to all of them. But if we don't, then we're happy to answer questions offline once you get the follow-up email. So we have a question. How long does it take to implement the program from beginning to end? And both of you might have different experiences here, so feel free to jump in. Karen, do you want to start?
I can start. When we signed up for the program, they told us 6 months. They were so fast, we could hardly keep up with them. So I would say it was probably 3.5 months. Sandra, I think that sounds about right. But yeah, they were really efficient.
It sounds about right, but don't let you rush yourself. Calculate half a year. Yeah, we didn't like that. Calculate half a year for sure.
And so how long does it take to then continue to maintain the programs from a staff perspective? Like what's the manpower and hours and what does that look like? Scott, do you have any insight?
Yeah, you know, it really needs to be a part of your culture and front of mind for everybody on your team that's, you know, guest facing. If somebody's placing a phone order, you know, for delivery or for carry out, you know, your dispatcher or host should ask if they have a loyalty account. You know, rather than give someone the hard pitch at a table, you know, our servers are instructed to ask, can I have your loyalty number, please? Or your loyalty, you know, would you like me to look up your loyalty? So, you know, those things become part of your steps of service. And it takes a little bit of time before it really becomes ingrained in your culture. And it's also something that can slip away very quickly as well if you're not always thinking about it. So it's an ongoing thing that we think about every day.
Great. And then another question we have in the chat is, what time of day or specific days do you see more people using the program? Karen or Sandra, do you want to chime in here? Because you guys might have different perspectives on this.
I think that will strongly depend on your business, the location where you're in. Our more urban locations, they might have more weekday traffic and business. And we found that the days that our restaurants were more busy in general, those are also the ones where it's a lot, where our loyalty guest is a lot more receptive. So we have tried to boost our less busy days through loyalty, which works to an extent, but it works exponentially better to piggyback on the days that are popular and are busier with our guests anyway. And again, that will be very individual to your business.
The only thing I'd add, Kara, is, you know, from companies that I've worked for before, not necessarily Native Foods that were more suburban somewhat. One of the comments is you try to understand is where do you find somebody in that consideration set? So a lot of times we found if we would start talking about something about dinner or something like somewhere between 3:30 and 5 p.m. and send something out and that email pops up as someone's thinking about driving home and grabbing some dinner or stopping for dinner, that time frame can work for some brands as well.
Great, thanks. And then do you see like an ROI immediately after starting the new loyalty program, or how quickly do you see results after you go live?
I think I mean, I think you see results pretty quickly. You know, the second time you get a guest in after their first visit, you know, to me that's an ROI. At one point I had calculated, you know, it really is about, you know, the longer somebody is a loyalty member, there are some that, you know, just maintain it as a part of the routine, but ultimately, you know, you do lose people over time. So you need to sort of build a critical mass to see the big ROI, which is why you constantly need to be getting people to sign up.
That makes sense. And there's a question also, why do you not offer discounts if the order was from a third-party merchant? I think that was Karen or Sandra that touched on that.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think most of us on the call are restaurant people, right? So, I mean, they're typically taking somewhere between 20 to 30% of every dollar that guest spends. So restaurant business, or at least our restaurant margins, are not that large. So there's just very little left. So again, if we're going to discount, yeah, for us, it's already discounted for a third-party vendor. For us, it's really best just to take care of those that order directly from us.
I would also say that one of the reasons we have loyalty programs is because we don't want people to order from a third-party vendor. The reality is we don't like third-party vendors all that much, at least for the most part. So, you know, we don't want to encourage them to be able to get our loyalty rewards on someone else's platform. You got to come direct to us. It's about as direct of a way as I can answer that.
Yep, makes sense. Yep. And I think Karen touched on this, and my new favorite phrase is plan the marriage and plan the divorce. How do you ensure that your data is protected, both from a standpoint of, or guest data is protected from a standpoint of if you switch programs, and in general, have you guys had hacking attempts? Because, you know, there's a lot of that going on right now in this industry and everywhere.
Absolutely. I can take that one. So the first big step is, of course, in the selection of your loyalty provider. So you want to make sure that you select an established loyalty provider that is PCI compliant, and that is, there is like a standard that's called SSAE 18. I had to look that one up. So make sure that they are SSAE 18 audited. That's just a statement for, I think it's Statement for Standards for Attestation Engagement. I had to look that up. But you want to ask these questions for your provider, because they are the one, for the most part, that are hosting the data. And then also ask them how they monitor for brute force attacks. Like you said, these hacking attempts. Ask these questions, how they monitor, how they handle these things. So to an extent that is on the provider, and then ultimately on you on selecting the right provider. You also want to make sure who has access to your data internally and within your loyalty provider, who can access your guest data, Jesus, and what are their user roles and the permissions that they have. And lastly, you also want to make sure that there are tools available to remove data if a guest requests it. So by law, we need to remove their data if a guest wants it removed. So you want to make sure that that's an easy way is offered by a provider to completely rid the systems of a guest data. So, but ultimately, like the biggest step is choosing a reliable provider.
All right, that's helpful. And then another question in the chat is, can you track when your apps have been deleted from your customers' phones?
I don't think I can. I'm not sure. Scott, do you know? Do you have the ability?
You can. Yeah, you can a couple different ways. There are sort of like third-party companies. Many of them are free that you can register your app on. You know, you'll typically have to do that once on the Google side, and once on the once on the Apple side, and then I think the other one's the Google. And you know, you can see how many people uninstall your app every day. You can also see how many people install it every day. So that was actually, for the most part, how I was tracking, you know, at one point. Now I'll say our loyalty program is not really app-based. It's integrated into one of the apps we have, but to a certain extent, we've really said it was important to keep people having a physical card if they want a physical card, an app if they want an app, and we haven't really been successful there just yet, as well as just, you know, look me up by phone number, which is where I think the most of our customers use a loyalty app. So, or loyalty. So you can track it. It's not very easy to track specific people that delete the app. You can often, through companies like Urban Airship, you know, you could probably see it to a certain extent, but it would also be very hard to get the specific guests data that deleted your app. Only a generalized number how many people uninstalled.
I had no idea. That's a good question. Thank you. And what is the best way that you guys have found in informing your guests about the launch of like your new loyalty program, or maybe for new restaurateurs that they're launching theirs? What are the different ways that you can communicate that they can sign up?
I think every way. Email, every single way that you have to reach is important. You know, when someone's in the bathroom, you should have signage there. When they walk in the door, but I think ultimately it's your employees within your four walls are going to be the strongest way to inform guests of anything new.
Yep, I agree. That front line is our best ambassador every day.
Got it. Communication is key. That makes complete sense. How often do you update your new promotions? Does it vary, or do you have a set standard schedule ahead of time?
Well, in our case, we just happen to have that switch from one loyalty provider to another, and we use that opportunity to update our promotions. You don't want to do it too often. Your guests should be familiar with your program, and they will be familiar with it. They will start to expect, say, a birthday gift or so. So don't take things away or switch them up too often. We personally don't have a set calendar right now. What we, however, do is we monitor the performance of our program and our promotions on a regular basis. And if a certain promotion isn't working, then you might want to change it. But we currently don't have, like I said, hey, every year we're going to get together and work it over type of schedule. But you do want to monitor your performance on an ongoing basis and then maybe base it off of that.
Makes sense. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, the way I think the loyalty programs are headed to, which is part of our upgrade, is that we have our base program, and then much rather before we'd say it's double points at this restaurant for this month or during this quarter, which we used to do, we're really now starting to make our loyalty program much more tailored to the actual individual. So there's still the base program with the birthday, with the points, but a lot of what we're trying to do is really incorporate AI into an individualized loyalty experience for each guest. And that's where we see the future going. And, you know, I think everyone ultimately knows it's going that way.
That's great. Well, it looks like we're about out of time. Thank you so much for all the questions, for everyone participating. Specifically, thank you so much, Sandra and Karen from Native Foods and Scott from 50/50 Restaurant Groups. Also like to thank the Cook County Small Business Source for their continued partnership and efforts to provide resources to all of our participants and for all small businesses across all industries. Following the conclusion of this webinar, we will be sending out an email saying with all of this information, including the slide deck, and we're happy to answer any further questions we couldn't get to. Please always know that Also, the Illinois Restaurant Group are also a resource for anything you need. Our website is illinoisrestaurants.org. And thank you so much to everyone, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.